Hello out there in TV land.
Do y'all remember that time the Golden Girls were tussling over a man? Let's get into it.
Thank you for being a friend.
Oh, yeah.
So the episode starts off with Blanche coming in the crib with a man by the name of Laszlo. He's a Hungarian artist that works at the art museum she works at, and she asks Dorothy and Rose if they remember him. Rose says, of course we do. Then she starts going on about some lecture he did at the museum on modern sculptures. Pay attention to the way Dorothy is looking at this man. She's eyeing him like he's a 1990 Patrick Swayze, but I guess I gotta be 30 years older to see what she's seeing because Laszlo not doing it for me. Anyways, Laszlo says that he didn't think that anyone was paying attention to his lecture, and Rose says, oh sure we were, especially Dorothy. Then she proceeds to tell that man that Dorothy said she would like to mold his clay or buff his flow anytime. Now Miss Dorothy.
Rose, you're such a kidder.
Then they sit down and Blanche tells Rose and Dorothy that there's now one woman at the museum who hasn't been all on Laszlo's body since he got there, I guess. Laszlo says, oh, women can be so silly. They think that just because you're a great artist, you must also be a great lover. Clearly, that's exactly what Dorothy, Blanche, and Rose are thinking. You can hear it in the way they are laughing when ain't nothing that funny. Then Laszlo continues and he says that women think that just because you're a master in the studio, that you must also be a master in the bedroom. They also think that just because you can work a piece of clay into a beautiful piece of art, that you can also work a woman's body into ecstasy, passion, and total screaming abandon. Laszlo, sir, please, I have to sleep tonight. I don't need that image in my head. I'm not moved, but these freaky frogs are.
Would anybody else like something cold to drink?
I would.
Then Laszlo says he thinks he should get going, and before he leaves, he gives each one of them a kiss on the hand that leaves them all weak in the knees, child. But before he walks out of the door, Blanche tells him that she's going to see him tomorrow in a way that sounds like they got a little something going on. When Laszlo is gone, Dorothy and Rose immediately start pressing her about what they got going on. They want her to spill the tea. This is when Blanche reveals to them that Laszlo asked her to pose
Bucket naked.
in the nude for one of his sculptures. She says that he gave her a key to his studio and their first section is tomorrow. And she tells them that the best part about it all is that Laszlo is gonna have that sculpture displayed at his show that's coming up at the museum soon. Rose tells Blanche that she can't believe that she's actually going to go through with it, and Blanche tells her of course she is because Laszlo is a world famous artist and this is her opportunity to be immortalized forever. Now we're in the kitchen sometime later where Blanche is telling Sophia and Dorothy that she thinks she's coming down with a cold. Dorothy tells her that doesn't come as a surprise because she's been spending every afternoon this week
Bucket naked.
in Laszlo's studio. Blanche tells Dorothy that she didn't catch a cold there because he keeps her too warm, too tingly, and too hot for that. Girl, relax. This is not Patrick Swayze in The Outsiders we're talking about here. And she says not that her and Laszlo actually do anything because he's been a perfect gentleman. She says that she just stands there in all her luscious nakedness and somehow he suppresses the urge to throw her on the ground and ravish her. Blanche.
Please, if he throws you on the floor, you'll both end up at the apartment below.
Then the doorbell rings and Blanche says that it must be Laszlo there to pick her up because they're driving to the museum together. Now we're in the living room where Rose lets Laszlo in while Blanche goes to grab her coat. Rose tells him that they are all so excited about what he and Blanche are doing, and she tells him that she thinks it's going to turn out great. But Laszlo says that he's not so sure, and Rose asks him what does he mean by that. This is when he tells her that he's having second thoughts. He says that when he first met Blanche, he thought that she would be perfect for the piece he had in mind, sexy, sassy, and exciting. But he says that now he's realizing that there are other qualities he would like to capture. Rose asks him like what? Laszlo says innocence, wholesomeness, naivety. He tells Rose that he sees a woman with a fuller figure, wider hips, and wider eyes. Now who does that sound like?
That's exactly the quality I want to capture.
He pulls out yet another key to his studio. Damn, how many keys you got, Laszlo? And he tells Rose to stop at his studio, that he will still see Blanche and she doesn't have to know a thing about it. At first, Rose is like, no, that would be dishonest. That would be a betrayal because Blanche is one of her dear friends. But then Blanche walks into the room and she asks Laszlo, did Rose keep him entertaining? And he says, yes, I find her charming. Blanche starts laughing and she tells Laszlo, aw, that's what I love about you. You can tell a bold-faced lie and still sound sincere. They stay on each other's necks. Anyways, now that Rose feels hit, she's like, okay, ho, I got your number. So when Blanche leaves the room again, she accepts that key from Laszlo. So now both Blanche and Rose will be posing
Bucket naked.
for Playboy Laszlo. Then a little time goes on and Blanche storms in the house mad as hell, and she tells Sophia and Dorothy that they won't believe what happened to her today.
I still do not believe it myself, and you won't believe it either.
What, Blanche?
I don't want to talk about it.
Then she goes in the living room where Rose is and she tells her that she's so mad. Rose instantly thinks she's talking about the Laszlo thing and she says, Blanche, let me explain. But Blanche cuts her off and tells her that she went through Laszlo's stuff to see some of his sketches because he never lets her see them and they were horrible.
The woman in those sketches is a dog. Blanche, she's just a hideous wrinkled old bag.
Rose tells her, Blanche, the woman in those sketches is me. And Blanche responds by saying, I know she sounds like you, honey, but she's not. Then Rose has no choice but to show Blanche the proof, so she pulls out the key to Laszlo's studio that he gave her. Rose tells Blanche that she can't take it so personally because Laszlo just wanted someone with more innocence. And Blanche says someone with more cellulite is more like it. Then Rose and Blanche start arguing and Dorothy walks in and asks them what's going on. And Blanche tells her, oh, nothing, just Rose stabbing me in the back. Blanche tells Dorothy that Rose has been posing for Laszlo too, and Rose says he asked me to. Blanche says, I sure don't know why. He could go to SeaWorld if he wanted to see a naked whale.
Oh, now that's how you clear a bitch.
Then Blanche tells Rose that this means war and that they'll both just keep going to Laszlo and they'll see who he picks for his sculpture. Rose says, fine, it's going to be me. And Blanche says, no, it's going to be me. Then Dorothy steps in and she says, girls, I think I can settle this. Y'all, why the fuck she pulls out a key to Laszlo's studio and says,
It's going to be me.
so now all three of them have been posing
Bucket naked.
for Playboy Laszlo. He strikes again. Then Blanche says, this has got to be one of the worst days of my life. Not one, but two of my best friends just stabbing me in the back. Dorothy tells her, oh, come on, Blanche. Did you really think that we were going to turn Laszlo down? You said it yourself. It's our chance to be immortalized in a classic piece of art. Blanche tells her, oh, please. You went for the same reason that Rose went, to get your hands on my man. Or at least she said something like that. Then they take the argument to the kitchen where the conversation is basically just, my man is your man, her that's her man too.
I hear this noise and it sounds like a freaking cat is being strangled.
My man is your man, her that's her man.
She's not talented. She's not a songstress.
Anyways, while they in the kitchen arguing, poor Sophia is just confused. She want to know the tea. She want to know what's going on.
What exactly makes you think he's your man?
Who? Maybe the fact that I found him first?
Who? A Hungarian artist we've all been posing nude for.
But it turns out to be just too much for her ears. And I understand.
In the future, a simple, none of your business Sophia will suffice.
Then when Sophia leaves the kitchen, Dorothy asks Blanche what reason does she have to think that Laszlo might actually be interested in her. She says because on numerous occasions, Laszlo has referred to her as his greatest artistic inspiration ever. Dorothy and Rose both say me too. So Playboy Laszlo been telling them all the same thing. Then Dorothy says, oh, let's face it, girls, we have no idea who Laszlo wants to use.
He told me that I had something that Blanche didn't have, and he probably told Dorothy she had something that I don't.
Then at first they all decide that they shouldn't go back. They say that Laszlo is being unfair and that way he won't have nobody for his sculpture.
And we'll seal it by both of you giving me your keys, and I'll keep all three of them safe in my hope chest.
Rose and Dorothy don't fall for that shit because they know Blanche is shiesty. So then they decide that all of them will just go to Laszlo and make him choose between the three of them. Now we're at Laszlo's studio where he opens the door and says oh, Blanche, come in. You've brought your friends to see my studio. What a pleasant surprise. Like all three of them ain't already been
Bucket naked.
all up and through there. The girls tell Playboy Laszlo that they all know what's going on. Laszlo says, so I am caught at last. Well, what can I say? Dorothy rushes over to that man and says, you can say, Blanche, Rose, get out. Dorothy, it's you that I want.
I'm sorry. I'd never seen him in overalls before.
Girl, but I can't even be mad at her because I see so much of me in her. Anyways, then Rose tells Laszlo that they all came over there so he could pick between the three of them for his sculpture. Laszlo says that he would rather not decide at all. Blanche tells him that he has to or it's going to tear all three of them apart. Then Laszlo tells her that right now he's not going to pick none of them. He says that he has enough sketches of all three of them, and when he starts working on his sculpture, then he will choose. Dorothy asks him how will they find out, and he tells her that it's going to be unveiled at his show. Then Laszlo shows the ladies to the door, but before Blanche leaves, she turns to that man and she asks him if he knows about a famous painting by Picasso called Nude Woman Playing the Violin. And Laszlo says, of course. Then she says, well, originally it was called Blanche Playing the Violin, only it wasn't a violin. Now, I don't know what freak nasty shit she was talking about, but if she talking about what I think she talking about, then Blanche.
You's a freaky ass nigga.
Now we're at Laszlo's show where all the ladies are excitedly waiting for the sculpture to be unveiled so they can see who he chose. Then it gets unveiled and it doesn't look like none of them to me. Hell, it doesn't even look like a human. But Rose, Blanche, and Dorothy all start assuming it's them.
You, Blanche, that's me.
The hell it is!
They start going back and forth about who it is, but they can't figure it out, so they go to ask Laszlo. Then he reveals that the statue is basically just all of them mashed up together. He says that he took the best qualities of each one of them and made one perfect woman. Then Laszlo tells them that he understands why they are all such good friends, because they complement each other well indeed. Then Blanche decides it's time to get to the real reason they all was posing
bucket naked
for Playboy Laszlo. She asks him if there's anyone there tonight that he's romantically interested in. And Laszlo says, well, matter of fact, there is. And Rose, Blanche, and Dorothy all start assuming it's one of them again. But no, it turns out that Laszlo is doing the bending. But it turns out that Laszlo is gay, and that's basically how the episode ends.
I'm sorry, I thought you knew.
Well, I really don't have any deep thoughts about this episode, so I'll just say that I love The Golden Girls. It's one of my favorite shows. It's one of my comfort shows. I watch it all of the time. And I think it aged well. I think that the boys and girls will still be watching and enjoying this show 50 years from now. It's a good ass show. And Dorothy is my favorite. Yeah.